Anger boils over in Tunisia over the government's new budget. Novel ways to keep New Year fitness resolutions. And cutting-edge robots for work and play. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent McCory. This is Africa 54. Now, Tunisian police are keeping a watchful eye across the country on Thursday after arresting 237 people Wednesday for attacking police stations and government buildings during anti-austerity protests. Angry citizens continue to boil over the government's new budget. Authorities say at least one protester has died and dozens of police have been injured in the demonstrations since Monday. The protests erupted 3 days ago over the North African country's cash-strapped government raising prices on gas and increasing taxes on cars and phone and internet use. Critics say the moves unfairly target the poor and middle class. Tunisia has been hailed for its relatively smooth democratic transition since the 2011 revolt that sparked the Arab Spring uprisings. But 70 years after the revolution, tensions over economic grievances are high. Israel was one of the first of 145 nations to sign the 1951 United Nations Convention on Refugees, which obligates countries to make the asylum application process accessible and humane to those in life-threatening situations. Israel wants to force out thousands of African migrants over the next 3 months and are threatening to jail those who stay. About 38,000 migrants who entered the country illegally, mainly Eritreans and Sudanese, will receive a plane ticket and $3,500 to leave or face arrest. The UN is calling for an alternative solution to be found. Joining me now on the phone from Jerusalem to discuss this issue is journalist Robert Bagger. Robert, welcome to Africa 54.
Good to be with you.
Yes, now everybody is kind of wondering why, particularly this time, what is it that has happened in Israel that makes Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, want these migrants out?
Well, there are, as you said, about 40,000 of these migrants here. They began coming about 10 years ago, and there's a number of reasons that the Israelis want them out. A lot of them live in South Tel Aviv, and that area has deteriorated quite a bit since the Africans moved in. There's growing crime. Some Israelis have been attacked. People feel that their property values have gone down. So there's economic reasons, for one. And two, Israel says that it was created as a refuge for the Jewish people, and it can't be a refuge for economic migrants coming from Africa.
But, of course, there's also that particular international agreement that if people run into your country and they're running from something, you have an obligation to help them. Jews themselves have, in the past, had to be refugees elsewhere. What is the reaction at home?
Yes, indeed. I mean, it is a moral dilemma. The critics in Israel are pointing to exactly that, you know, Jews, especially during World War II, fled to other countries. They were turned away. And so there's a feeling among many Israelis that Jews do have an obligation to help people like these Africans who mostly fled war in Eritrea and Sudan. On the other hand, I would say on the other side of it, there are those who are not at all happy about these people coming here. Again, as I mentioned, the growing crime and the feeling that Israel simply can't take in. Israel is created as a Jewish state, and it can't, you know, open its doors wide to poor people, poverty-stricken people from Africa. That's not what the purpose of the Jewish state is.
There is this suggestion that they could be given asylum in other countries in Europe, particularly instead of being sent back to Africa. Is Israel warming up to that?
Well, you know, what the Israelis are saying is that they had a deal with Rwanda and Uganda to take in these people. They're going, I think you mentioned, to give them $3,500. and a plane ticket out. But now Uganda and Rwanda are saying, well, we never made such a deal. So there are attempts by the UN and others to try and find third countries that might take these people. I think the Israelis would be delighted if Europe or anyone else would be willing to take the people in. But as you know, Europe is flooded with refugees. There's really not a whole lot of places for these people to go. The UN is saying that it's not safe to send them back to Africa.
Oh, well, Robert, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's journalist Robert Berger reporting from Jerusalem. Jobs in Alaska's seafood industry draw people from all over the globe, including faraway Africa. Although the hours are long and the conditions can be dangerous, many say it is worth the hardship and risk to make money to send to relatives back home. Surafel Shiferau and Edie Legongo recently traveled to Alaska to meet the immigrants working in Dutch Harbor, and Surafel has this report.
Dutch Harbor is America's largest and busiest fishing port. In 2015, fishermen from the port caught 357 million kilograms of fish and other seafood, valued at $218 million. The industry draws people from all walks of life, including Somalian refugee Abdulkani Hassan. Hassan first came to Dutch Harbor from Iowa in December 2016 and is now back for his second season, ready to brave the harsh conditions.
Yeah, actually, when you knew, it is kind of, you can face a lot of challenging, but when you become work for one season, another season is going to be okay for you. So nothing hard over here. It's kind of cold, maybe it's going to challenge you, but instead of very bad weather.
Dutch Harbor, situated in the Aleutian Islands at the southern tip of Alaska, is not as frigid as other parts of the state, but it's very cold and has 221 days of rain or snow. Workers say the weather, along with the area's isolation and rural nature, causes great loneliness and boredom. The only thing they can do is work 7 days a week for up to 12 hours per shift for a pay that starts at minimum wage of $9.75 per hour. Wasihun Kasahun is an Ethiopian who once worked in Dutch Harbor. After one season, he could no longer handle it mentally.
My mind couldn't accept the situation. It was cold and tough. I lost my appetite. No matter how hard I try, you can't force your mind.
The fish processing job are not for everybody, he added, but can offer some a way to improve their lives. That's the case of Ali Abdullah Ali, who is working to support his family in Somalia, 13,000 kilometers away.
Sometimes I send my money back home to help my family, my mother, my brothers. So that's what I will do. You don't waste your money, you eat, you sleep for free. You just collect your money, stay. It's like, it's like a prison, but it's not. You just collect your money, like you make 15.
Sam, who is Sudanese, believes workers are being treated unfairly and wants issues such as wages and worker safety looked at.
It's not an easy job. Sometimes you can overdo, and if you're new and you don't used to it, it leads you crazy, or you can get injured or something like that.
Still, workers seem willing to take the risk in hopes of building a better life, and for everyone who leaves, another foreign worker, many of them Africans, will come to take his place.
Well, joining me now to tell us more about working in America's largest and northernmost state is Surafel Shiferau. Surafel, welcome to Africa 54.
Thank you.
Now, by their own confession, this place is extremely cold. It can be so lonely. What did they tell you drove them there in the first place?
Yeah, you mean the workers go there for to make more money. So that's the main thing. They go there.
I mean, like they just had to go to Alaska.
Yeah, it's a lot of money, but the fact on the ground is not what you think.
Yeah.
There are two ways. Some make money, some don't. But the catch is like they work longer hours, and they have nothing to spend.
This guy described that as almost like being in prison.
Yeah.
Why? Why does he say that?
You can't go anywhere. You work like 12 to 16 hours, then you sleep, and then you go back to work. So you have one dormitory, and the factory, the processing factory is next door. So you just
Who are these guys who are running these activities? I mean, who are treating people like prisoners?
Yeah, there are like 3 or 4 big companies, fishing companies. So they have like big fishing processors there.
And
it's
then
huge. They wouldn't let us in. I don't know. Like we have emailed them, we just called them, and I even
wouldn't let you go.
Yeah, there.
Okay. But, what else did you observe around that area that the Africans who may have gotten up there are doing?
I observed only 2 things. One is there's a big labor exploitation. I think there is a lot. They just don't want the media to come through and see what's going on. And the other is like people think you make money in Alaska, but you don't.
Was there any evidence of government kind of officials or maybe other agencies that are maybe trying to make sure people get a fair treatment?
Yeah, one of the guys that I interviewed, he said that he fought like for almost 8 years for the raise of the minimum wage.
Yeah.
It was around $8. Now they raised it to $9.65, close to that.
Okay, and are there a whole lot of Africans there?
Yeah, there are a whole lot of Africans, especially East Africans.
Yeah.
And I have found also some people from Senegal and Mali. So most of the people are from Sudan, from Eastern Africa, Ethiopia. We have Somalia, a lot of Somali people, even girls working there.
Wow, I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for
welcome.
doing this fabulous piece and coming to share those thoughts with us.
Thanks.
Well, that Surafel Shifirao, and he joined us live here after that nice report. Now going to East Africa, Kenya Airways is now the first airline to offer a non-stop flight between East Africa and the United States. The national carrier started selling tickets on Thursday for the inaugural flight, which is scheduled for October 28th. The airline already serves Africa, Europe, the Middle East, the Indian subcontinent, and Asia. Currently, U.S.-bound passengers from Kenya must now change planes in Europe or the Gulf on a journey that can take 20 hours or more. Kenya has long wanted to fly direct to the United States, but the Kenyan carriers were only granted U.S. security clearance for the route in February 2017 after a major refurbishment of facilities at the main Nairobi airport.
We are opening sales of the first non-stop flight from Nairobi to the USA, which means that as of now, as of this morning, you can buy tickets to go to New York, and all the US market, all the people from New York, but not only New York, can buy tickets to fly from JFK to Jomo Kenyatta.
Now, the new route is part of an effort to revive the airline's fortunes after it nearly collapsed, leading to a $2 billion financial restructuring in November that included a government bailout which reduced Air France's KLM's stake. Well, we want now to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vince Macori. Coming up, outside the box, ways to make good in on New Year fitness resolutions. Stay with us.
How do you see the world?
I see countries in turmoil.
I see our planet changing.
I see people at peace.
No matter how you see the world, you'll get an unbiased and uncensored view of it on Voice of America. On television, radio, online, and mobile. In more than 40 languages all day, every day. Millions of people tune us in.
How do I see the world? On Voice of America.
Well, joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Medu. What do you have for us today, Lino?
U.S. scientists say a once-a-week pill for HIV has shown promise in animals. This 4 centimeters star-shaped scaffold stays in the stomach for 7 days as its coating dissolves. It's steadily releasing its cargo of drugs. Once it has delivered its payload, the star begins to degrade and passes on through the digestive tract. In the pig trial, researchers dosed it with enough of 3 antiretroviral drugs to last for 7 days. The researchers say trials in humans could begin within 2 years. They say the slow-release tablet could free patients from having to take daily medication. Some HIV experts say the prospect of a new treatment option was to be welcomed, but that a once-a-week pill for HIV for people was still a way off. The research was published in the journal Nature Communications and funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the U.S. National Institutes of Health, and the Brigham and Women's Hospital. Now, a new study conducted in the United Kingdom suggests that singing could help mothers recover from postnatal depression more quickly. The study published in the British Journal of Psychiatry looked at 134 mothers with postnatal depression. During the singing workshops, mothers learned lullabies and songs from around the world with their babies. They also created new songs together about motherhood. Those with moderate to severe symptoms of postnatal depression reported a much faster improvement than mothers in the usual care and play groups. All the groups improved over the 10 weeks, but in the first 6 weeks, the singing group had already reported an average 35% decrease in depressive symptoms. There is good news for those who fear it might be too late in life to improve their fitness. A new study revealed that people into late middle age can reverse or reduce the risk of heart failure caused by decades of sedentary living by exercising. The study, published in the journal Circulation, analyzed the hearts of 53 adults aged 45 to 64 who were healthy but had no history of exercising regularly. The study's participants were divided into 2 groups, with one following an aerobic exercise routine that progressed in intensity over 2 years, and another doing yoga, balance training, and weight training 3 times a week. For 2 years, the aerobic exercise group showed an 18% improvement in their maximum oxygen intake during exercise and a more than 25% improvement in plasticity in the left ventricular muscle of the heart, both markers of a healthier heart. However, the benefits were not seen in the second group. Now, one of the most common New Year's resolutions is to lose weight and get fit. VOA's Faith Lapidus takes a look at how some people are trying to keep that commitment.
There are gyms around the world, all offering a range of exercise equipment and fitness classes. This high-intensity gym in Karachi is helping its members work off the stresses of city life. In Los Angeles, those looking for something a bit more exotic are turning to Bollywood.
North India's got a dance called Bhangra, which is really all the rage right now, and you're seeing it everywhere, and it's probably the most fun dance that you can do.
Boxing is not as graceful, but it still gets your pulse racing, especially when it's done to music. Playing football instead of watching it on TV can make you a winner, not in points gained, but in pounds lost. The Londoners in the Man vs. Fat project set up the club in 2016. They felt there weren't enough fat loss schemes aimed specifically at men.
Most of the men are losing 5%. Many of the men are also losing 10% of their starting body weight. And a lot of that comes down to the peer support that they get from the other men and from their coach.
The centuries-old practice of yoga is gaining popularity as a path toward fitness.
And seek to understand it in relationship to the practice as it evolves.
And the practice has evolved in some surprising ways. There's yoga, and then there's laughing yoga.
Endorphins in the body help fight what make us sick. They give us happiness. With every belly laugh, you lose 3.5 calories. And it's like Botox for the girls.
And, wait for it, there's goat yoga.
Goat yoga is a combination of a very serious meditation with the yoga and then a very not so serious meditation with the playful antics of the goat kids. It keeps it real, it keeps you in the moment.
If none of those are for you, you can pick a different resolution next New Year's. I'm Faith Lapidus, VOA News.
thinking about some goat yoga. How about that? Well, that's our health report for today. To stay in touch, find me on Twitter at @LenorMoudou. Back to you, Vincent.
Well, thank you. Just wonder if you get to eat that goat eventually. Thank you very much, and be sure to watch Lenor Moudou's health report every Tuesday and Thursday on Africa 54. Well, now, you had to work. Let's wait. Yehadawek Geshau is the first world-class Ethiopian model to work in Europe and the United States. She's also an accomplished actress and the first black female to appear on the top-rated 1980s American television series Dallas. And Ms. Geshau, true passion is advocating for the social and economic justice of Africans and the African diaspora around the world. Well, it's my pleasure now to welcome Yehadawek Geshau to Africa 54. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Vincent.
Yes.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. First, you come from out of town. You want to share with us why you made it to Washington this time around?
Yes, in fact, this is a follow-up from last month. It's a follow-up visit. Last month, I met Ambassador Herman Cohen, and introduced a program, all-inclusive Ethiopian political party conference, which should include also the Ethiopian ruling party, the Tigrayan People Liberation Front, now in power for the last 27 years. And so I'm asking the United States of America to sponsor and host and call for all-party inclusive conference before Ethiopia becoming a dismantled country.
Mm-hmm. Now, share with us, you combine quite a number of things. How are you able to bring this kind of complex things together, for example, to fight for immigrants who are here, but at the same time trying to see how well you can also contribute to correcting the situation back in Ethiopia?
Yeah, well, when you're involved in the civil rights movement, you grow up in Pan-Africanism, and all this, and then with a strong belief of your culture as an African, a strong woman, that focus, as a priority, the African issue, there is always a way to do it, and one of is addressing a meeting and seeking support from people like the former U.S. Secretary of State for African Affairs, Ambassador Cohen.
Yes. Now, there's a lot of talk that goes on in this city and in other parts of the U.S. Tell me, over this period of time, how much success have you received? How many other challenges have you had to face in trying to do what you're doing?
Yeah, it was for the first time that was introduced to him, and there is a reason why. Because in 1991, U.S. sponsored exclusive conference for 3 rebel groups, separatists, and which led to the Tigrayan Liberation Front to take over the power. So for the last 27 years, they have seen it, because America was hoping from socialist government to democratic government. That didn't happen at all. So, Ambassador Cohen was the organizer, the main organizer of that conference in London. And so now we met on December 11.
Now, just tell me, do you feel that your personal efforts have yielded any positive results over that period of time?
Yes, the ambassador talking like after the second day of our meeting, he started his way. Yeah. He started voicing already. And many Ethiopians are supporting it, because Ethiopians are like most, like all Africans are peace, lovers. They want everything to be solved in a peaceful way and create all-inclusive, mutual government, which will help in constitution which will help and serve everybody in Ethiopia.
Sure. And of course, we know that there's also the other aspect of the U.S. policy towards that particular region. But you know, that's a discussion for another time. I want to appreciate very much.
And we have the refugee issue also, you know.
Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, that's Yaherowek Gashau, who is an advocate for the social and economic justice for Africans in the diaspora. Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54. Cutting-edge robots for companionship, work and play. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Africa 54, and here's what's trending. Now, the Consumer Electronics Show is all about gadgets. This might look like a regular diamond-shaped ice cube, but instead of being made by water, which slowly dissolves in a drink and dilutes it with water, this cube is made entirely out of vodka. Other ice cubes in this machine are made out of whiskey. This machine, called Beyond Zero, cools the liquor down to minus 80 degrees Celsius beyond the point where high alcohol liquor freezes. Now, the machines are available for a whopping $4,999. But if you are a serious drinker, you probably want to add an ice storage for another $4,999. Then there are the robots. Taiwan-based the Industrial Technology Research Institute has brought its Scrabble-playing robot to Las Vegas and is using its inbuilt intelligence vision system. It's able to distinguish between various Scrabble cubes, words, and their locations. Japan-based Omron's booth demonstrated a robotic table tennis coach called Forpheus. It uses a 3-camera system to identify the ball location up to 80 times a second and evaluate players. Sick of homework, or rather housework? Well, Eiler's robot assists with everything from vacuuming to collecting deliveries and putting away groceries. It uses artificial intelligence to learn to recognize people and take on new tasks. And yes, there are also high-tech cars on show. Canadian auto manufacturer Electromechanica is showcasing Solo, its new all-electric 3-wheeled one-seater commuter car. The single-seater configuration is influenced by the millions who commute to work alone every day. Its lithium-ion battery promises a 100-mile range and can be fully charged in around 3 hours. Then there is Olai, a self-driving bus that aims to bring mobility to all. The 3D printed vehicle is intended to be particularly useful to elderly and disabled people hoping to get around. And that's what's trending today, and that's our show. Good night.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Liquid boils when it is heated to a certain temperature.
Boils down to this.
So Jonathan and Anna are probably talking about cooking. Or are they?
I got a job offer.
That's great. Congratulations.
Thanks. But the job is in California. All my friends and family are here in DC.
Look.